to another episode of the Jesus Agenda. My name is Pastor Chad. Well, let's just go with I'm Chad, and this is my friend Steven or Steve. We are the co-hosts. We are the co-hosts. That's like my son. People call him Willie. It's like, no, it's William.
I mean, if you slip up and call me Steve, it's okay. But if you want to know my preference.
Yeah, until he gets his PhD, then we can call him Dr. Steve. Dr. Steve. That has a good ring to it, I think.
Dr. Steve.
But anyway, back to the intro to the podcast. We're here with another episode of the Jesus Agenda. And today we're going to be talking about three topics that are on everybody's mind. The first is tariffs. What's going on with the tariffs? The second is going to be about our obsession in the West with Buddhism and really all things Eastern meditation style. And lastly, we're going to talk about a trend that's been going on online for some time now called rage baiting that I guess I noticed but didn't realize it had a name to it. So we're going to start off right off the bat with tariffs. This has been talked about probably for weeks now. It's in the news all the time. So I was saying before we started the show, as we're prepping, that I have this image in my head. If you remember the movie from the 1970s about Pearl Harbor called Tora, Tora, Tora. Mm-hmm. And the one poster that I remember is of this Japanese pilot, and all you see is his face with his hands on the thing like he's shooting or doing that what do they call that when they
gunny thing?
No, when they ram into you. Is that bonsai? Or is that the tree? Kamikaze, right? And it says Tora, 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 which I believe means tiger, tiger, tiger. So I'm not really sure what the correlation is, but I keep picturing Donald Trump's face in the cockpit and tariff, 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 like he's going after the other countries. But so this, I think the first thing I'm surprised about is why is anybody surprised? He's been talking about this for like 30 years.
That's true.
It's not just since he's been president.
I remember listening to him on Rush Limbaugh had him as a guest. This was years ago. I still remember it because I didn't know much about Donald Trump, and Rush Limbaugh had him on. And Rush Limbaugh doesn't have guests very often,
right?
Well, he didn't. He's obviously deceased, but
who
Trump
knows what
was
he's saying
now? This was in the 90s,
yeah,
and Trump was already talking about how we should do tariffs.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't know if you've noticed this, but so pretty much everything that Trump has done, the Democrats have brought lawsuits against him. They could do that with the tariffs, but they haven't because their opposition is really just political. Because if you go back, I was watching a video of Nancy Pelosi in 1996 where she talks about the difference. She's in Congress, and she's talking about the difference between the American tariff on Chinese products, which was at that time 2%, and the Chinese tariff on American imports, which was 35% at the time. And then she was saying, look, we can't do this. This is ridiculous. You know, China's going to have to reform its tariff policy. It's got to be fair, right? Mm-hmm. And then if you fast forward, the other video I saw was Chuck Schumer, like in 2004 or 2005, somewhere in that era. Same thing. He's saying China needs to reform its tariff policies. You know, this has to be more fair. And I believe he might have, in that particular speech, he might have even used the word consequences so everybody knows that it's unfair. And we just have a president who's willing to use the tool to get what he wants. And I think ultimately he's going to get what he wants. Which
You're
is
talking about the reciprocal tariffs where somebody's tariffing us 50% and we're matching them because to make it fair.
Yeah.
Which I don't really so much have a problem with the reciprocal ones. Tariffs technically are not a conservative policy.
No, they're not.
So
they're a protectionist policy,
right? But reciprocal ones, I don't have any problem with those. The other ones, they're very risky.
So, like the flat across the board 10%, which is everybody is dealing with now. Yeah. That one, I would agree with you, is probably unnecessary. But I would have just pinpointed like China. Like, why do we need to charge South Korea, who's a trading partner, 10%? What is, and I honestly, I didn't do enough research to even see what South Korea's tariff on American goods is.
Yeah. If it's 25, I have no problem with us doing 25.
Right. I don't mind the reciprocal stuff. But again,
because all they have to do is drop their tariff and then we'll drop ours.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This is really a protectionist thing. I mean, I think that there will be some manufacturing that comes back home, but it's not going to happen overnight. Let's take iPhones for example. So I got to tell a little bit of a story that I had to go get new phones. So I was having a problem with my phone where my house is, it has to be connected to the Wi-Fi in order for me to get calls. And when I walk out the door, it's supposed to just automatically connect. And that's what it's done, for however long I've had the phone. But recently it started doing this thing where I'd leave the house off the Wi-Fi signal and it goes into SOS mode. When it's in SOS mode, you can't get texts, make texts, calls, make calls. And I'm not always, when I leave the house, I don't look at my phone, necessarily. I just get in the car and drive away. So it'd be like 35 minutes later and I look at my phone and it's on SOS mode. I can't get any calls. So then you have to reboot it. So I let it go for like a couple of months just to see if it would, maybe it would work itself out as these things sometimes do, but it didn't. So I had to go get a new phone. So I dropped my son off. My younger son is in Civil Air Patrol. So I dropped him off at his squadron meeting. And I went to the Spectrum store, where Spectrum, for those not in the area, is a local cable company that resells Verizon airtime at a cheaper rate. So I stop in and I say to the guy, I go, look, I got this iPhone. I just need to get, whatever the cheapest one is, and he brings me over to the thing. He goes, all right, so all we've got is iPhone 16s, but we've got like 4 different models of the iPhone 16. By the way, the other thing that you can do with this is within each model, there's a different level of internal memory. So you can get, it's like 128 gigabytes is the lowest, and then the highest is like 300 or 250 or something like that. And of course, the more internal memory,
which we don't need. It's people who do
I don't need
pictures.
That.
Like your wife is going to need.
She's got like 4,000 pictures.
What'd you get her?
So here's what happens. So I go over to the thing and I say to the guy, I just look at it. I'm like, so what's the difference? He explains the differences. I said, all right, this one's 16, which is the iPhone 16e, the base model. I said, that's the one I'm getting. Box it up. I said, you know what, just get 2 of them. And he goes, well, you sure you don't want to call your wife? And I'm like, yeah, I probably should. he's been married. The guy was married for like 30 years, so he knew what he was talking about.
But sometimes it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yeah, I should have just been like, you know what, I just got these 2 phones, So anyway, I call my wife on the phone and I said, hey, they've got these 4 different iPhone 16s. I said, this one that I'm getting is $16. Do you want me to just get you that one? And she goes, well, what's the difference? And I said, what do you mean, what's the difference? They're all iPhones. They're the same. She goes, no, there's got to be a difference.
No, you answered the difference is $10.
Wait, well, I did say that the difference is $10 between this one and the next model. Thanks for
not what she meant.
Yeah. But that's not what she meant. She wanted to know, like, physically, what does it do? So I said, well, the $16 one has 1 lens for the camera. The next one up for $10 has 2 lenses. And she goes, well, I like to take pictures. And I'm like, I don't know about this, So anyway, my wife got the $10 more expensive one.
You told us before that you said you can take pictures with the 1 lens as well.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
You can still take pictures with one.
But she says, but I like to take pictures. I'm like, all right. So she ended up getting the $10 one. But
happy wife, happy life.
That's right. The iPhone is a good example, right? The iPhones are made in China. Apple's not going to like magically start to make them overnight here in the United States. No. It's going to be years.
So the prices are going to go up a lot.
Yeah,
if the tariffs continue.
Oh yeah, and you figure this base model was $500 if I had bought it outright, $499 or something like that. So I mean the tariff strategy. It's not that Trump is wanting to make us pay more. I don't think. I think we just want China to lower its tariffs.
Right. He means well, or he wants us to produce here.
Or produce here, one or the other. And ultimately, that'll be good for the country in the long term. I mean, they're not mistaken. The free trade agreements that were made under Bill Clinton were terrible. And you know what the irony is that I just saw like NAFTA, but I just saw the UAW president say that they're on board with the tariffs, with this policy, because they know that it's ultimately good for their members. Because a lot of those jobs went to Mexico and Canada and other places. So they want the jobs brought back because it gives them more. I mean, the union obviously wants more bargaining power. The bigger the bargaining unit, the more power they have when they come to the negotiating table.
You see, I fear that I mean, I want to win the midterm elections.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm worried about.
Yeah, so I'm worried about that
Yeah.
that this won't turn around, and I don't think it will. I don't think it's going to happen that fast.
I don't either.
And then so if people are paying twice the amount and this stuff still hasn't resolved itself, then I could see us losing the midterm elections by a landslide, making Trump a lame duck president for the last two years, and then we lose the
messing
re-election.
with JD if he gets.
So this is a big political game.
It is a big play,
It's
and if
huge.
you go back historically and you look at the last two presidents who really used tariffs as a tool, both Republicans, McKinley lost 51 seats in the House at the midterms.
Wow.
And who was the other president? Whoever the other president was, it's slipping my mind right now, but he lost 101 seats in the House.
Yeah.
So the last time this was played, I think the difference is that, look, the reality is that this is what Trump has been doing his entire life. He's not been a career politician. He's been a career businessman. And he's done business in most of these countries. Like, how many places do they have Trump properties? All over Europe. I mean, even in Russia, there's Trump towers in Moscow. So, maybe he knows some things that the rest of us don't know. And, why would he want to screw his chances of having the House in the midterms? It just seems to me like there wouldn't be a plausible reason to play a game you don't think you can win. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt for the time being, and
he's used a lot of political capital on this.
Yes, a lot.
That's less to use on other things.
Yeah, and I think we also have to remember that we're still within the first 100 days.
Yeah.
And if you look at we just had a 90-day pause, except for China. So again, this goes back to what we said before when we were talking about Gaza, for example. When Trump comes out with the Israeli prime minister and says, we're going to make Gaza one big hotel, nobody actually believes you're going to do it except for the crazies. No. Anybody who knows Trump or has read The Art of the Deal knows that you throw out the most extravagant, ridiculous plan possible so that you can get what you really want. Now, in case of Gaza, we don't really know what he wants yet. We have no idea. And it could be still that he's going to work with Israel to take that land. Who knows? Which would be, in my opinion, a travesty. But
same thing with tariffs. He may be doing
Same thing with the tariffs.
He may be trying to bring people to the bargaining table, which has happened, by the way.
Right.
And then he may not get everything that he's saying he wants, but he may have another target really in mind.
Yeah. And like you said, it is already happening. There are countries that are already at the table. In fact, on the news the other day, somebody not from the current administration, but who was in his administration the last time, said you can't book a hotel in D.C. right now. It's filled with foreign nationals who are here to negotiate on behalf of their countries. Even with some of the, maybe even with some of the friendly countries that we don't really have a problem with, maybe this is a reset to say, look, we're still kind of lopsided. Let's figure it out. Look, let's talk about, like, Canada is a great example, right? So if you look at GDP, the United States, the percentage of our GDP that is exported is 11%. That's our the size of our what the exports affect in our gross domestic product, right? For Canada, it's 30%. Of that 30%, not 25% of 30, but a whole 25% of the 30%, right? It's the products they ship to us. So who has the better position?
For tariffs, yeah.
We have the better position.
Right.
Because we don't need them. We don't need to ship anything to Canada, right? And so when you start looking at some of these other countries, China, I mean, I don't even know. I mean, the percentage
of their
GDP
down, tripling down.
But what I'm saying is the percentage of their GDP that's in exports, it's got to be like 40-50%. It's got to be huge.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you would think that they would come to, but I think the issue with Xi Jinping is, like with any dictator, you can't back down. You back down, you show weakness to your people.
Yeah.
The next thing you know, the party has takes him out of the whatever their version of the White House is and chops his head off and moves on to the next guy, right? So I don't know. I think we definitely have the advantage, and I hope it plays out right. But I'm willing to just kind of ride it out and see what happens.
If it doesn't, he may have a short presidency in terms of effectiveness.
Right, which I wouldn't want to see because there's so many other things on the agenda that are super important that I'd like to continue to see them work on, and of course I'd like to see JD set up for a good run when that starts, because that'll start in 3 years.
Yeah,
maybe even 2 years. Really.
Yeah. We'll be talking about it for
Oh yeah. Now the other thing that I was thinking about in terms of the tariffs is, look at some of the other thing in terms of riding it out, I guess is what I'm getting at, or giving him sort of the benefit of the doubt. We've already seen that kind of happen with a few things that started and that have started in the 100 days. And one of those things has been the consumer price inflation. We talked about this a couple episodes ago. It came down again. It went from 2.8 to 2.4. And I noticed, my wife told me the other day that eggs have gone down at the store.
They have. Gas has gone down.
Gas has gone down.
$3 here in New York.
Yeah. And if you go to like Delta Sonic, which is a car wash place. So I use Delta Sonic sort of as the marker because gas. So I don't know if people realize it, but gas as a commodity, it fluctuates, right? But gas station owners are always ahead of whatever the current price is. So what they do is they're hedging their bets. They're looking at the price today and they adjust their price at the pump higher so that they can, have a little extra cushion for when it fluctuates. But the reality is that most gas stations don't make much money on gas.
No, it's pennies on the gallon.
Especially if you're in a state like where we are, where like 40 cents per gallon goes to the state. It's taxes. So when you look at Delta Sonic, they bottom out their gas price at the pump because they're really there to get your money for the car wash. That's their main deal, right? Plus they've got...
And the convenience stores.
Right, now they've got all these big convenience stores. So Delta Sonic is kind of my measurement for where we're actually at. And I think the other day it was like $2.82 a gallon in one of the towns where we have a Delta Sonic. So,
I did see that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a huge deal. So I guess what I'm getting at is we are seeing some prices go down. So if car prices go up, I mean, are you in the market for a car? I mean, I know a lot of people are. I know there's some concern too. I know that at least in our area, there's been a lot of layoffs at car dealerships. Even the big, really successful ones are laying people off, and
because sales are down.
And not only are sales down, but again, it's a preemptive thing. You're looking at how long is this tariff situation going to last?
Yeah. And when if you're talking 25, 30, 40% more for a car, how many people can afford one? Right. Yeah. And these companies can't just eat.
And that's just off the 10% bump.
Yeah.
So I mean, but it'll be interesting.
Well, the 10%
to see.
is for everybody, but most of the places it's more than that.
Right. But what I'm saying is those got paused.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you got a 90-day pause on the extras.
Yeah.
Really, the only thing that's in effect right now is the 10% in China. If you're China, it's like 100,000%. You're totally screwed if you're China, right? So, which I guess people aren't going to be ordering from Temu anytime soon, which is a shame because I bought a couple things off of there. I'm not going to lie. I bought some stuff for my car. Like they had this thing on Facebook where you could take the ice off. It was a cone on your car, and I'm like, that can't work. But it was like 89 cents on Temu, so I bought it. Works. Huh. You got to get it.
I've seen those.
It works, man. You put it on there and it's gone. It's done. I don't know how it works, but it works. So,
I just don't scrape my car. I just put like a credit card size opening and I
just
peek through, right, DJ? DJ's wife apparently does the same thing.
That's the way to do.
Yeah.
That's what your wife does.
Yeah, it's horrifying. They're driving through a tunnel.
Oh no, that's terrible.
Because eventually it defrosts by itself.
Well, that is true. I used to have a buddy. When you're there and you're going inside, I had a buddy who used to laugh at me because I would start the car and leave it on for like 15 minutes. He's like, "That's what old men do." I'm like,
I always start my car.
I always start my car if it's really cold.
Yeah.
So I decided to kind of look. The Bible, by the way, does not have something to say about everything, right?
Yeah.
We should not. We don't want to lead people ever astray. I know there's some people.
It doesn't talk about China.
Right. So, but it does mention tariffs twice. And I did not, in all fairness, I did not go back to the Greek or the Hebrew to see what word they translated as tariff. But in Ezra 4, verse 13, the king is being advised and this is when the Babylonians allow the Israelites to go back and rebuild Jerusalem. That's Ezra's time period. And so one of the king's advisors says, hey, may the king be further advised that if this city, speaking of Jerusalem, is rebuilt and its walls erected, the citizens will refuse to pay tributes, taxes, and tariffs, thereby restricting royal revenues. So at least in this case, it's being used as a reason to not let the Jews go back, and because basically, king, when they get back there and they got their own thing, they're going to say, we're not paying nothing, But I'm sure that the king of Babylon probably could have just gone back and wiped them out if they didn't pay those tariffs. And then Jesus mentions tariffs in Matthew 17, verse 25. He says, yes, when he went into the house, Jesus spoke to him first. What do you think, Simon? Who do earthly kings collect tariffs or taxes from their sons or from strangers? So, I mean, this is just the idea that, we're not going to collect tariffs if you make it here locally or, domestically. Tariffs are for foreigners. They're for the strangers, not for the sons. Now, I wish our government would also not make the sons pay taxes, but I don't think that's ever going to happen.
We're not going back.
So we're not going to argue with that. But anyway, let's give it a chance. Let's see what happens with the tariffs, and just continue to pray for our country and pray for our president. You should do that even if you don't like the president. I prayed for President Biden
because the Bible tells us to.
And actually, in my when we mention politicians, we do pray for our leaders every week at church. And when we mention them by name, we have 2 Democrat senators, and so we've kind of got a little mixed bag. And our governor's Democrat, so you should pray for them either way. But pray that this policy is successful and works out to the benefit of the American worker and the American consumer, because we really should be concerned first and foremost with the United States of America and with our neighbors who live here. Listen, if you like what we're doing, we need help, and here's how you can help. The first is we need you to share these podcasts, whether it's the audio podcast that shows up on Buzzsprout or wherever you get your audio podcast from, or this video on YouTube. You can hit subscribe and like on this video and on our channel, and you can share the channel with your friends and with your family. If you're sharing on social media, it may or may not help, because the social media definitely suppresses content that isn't being paid for to advertise. So you'd need to share it through email, or share it at your church, or share it at your workplace, or send a text message to your friends and family. The other 2 ways that you can help support us, DJ's going to put up on the screen our email and the link to our support page on our website. You can support us monthly for as little as $3 a month, and or you can sponsor an episode. And if you want to sponsor an episode, just shoot us an email. Tell us what you'd like us to advertise, whether it's a business or a church or a nonprofit or something like that, and send us $20, and we will get it up on our next episode. So, and we look forward to your support, and we thank you for it. And we will in the future start having, once we get sort of a base of supporters on the Buzzsprout website, we will start offering supporter-only content. So you'll get a little extra more of these 2 handsome faces talking about topics that you care about.